When we think about male-female relationships, most people focus on attraction, how someone looks, how they dress, or even how charming they are. But what if I told you there's a hidden layer that operates quietly beneath the surface? A layer that influences our choices, sparks tension, and can even dictate the outcome of our relationships. This isn't about looks, personality, or social status. It's about shadow dynamics. Shadow dynamics refer to the unconscious parts of ourselves, those impulses, fears, and desires that we often don't recognize, but that affect our relationships in profound ways. Everyone has a shadow, regardless of gender. In male-female bonds, these shadows often clash, attract, or trigger reactions that neither party fully understands. And here's the catch. What initially draws people together is sometimes what later drives them apart. Think about it. You meet someone, and there's an instant spark. You can't quite explain why, but it feels magnetic. That magnetism often stems from a resonance between shadow aspects qualities in the other person that reflects something hidden in you. For example, a man may be drawn to a woman who embodies confidence he secretly envies. Or a woman may feel pulled to a man who reflects a rebellious streak she wishes she could express. But here's where things get tricky. While shadow attraction can be intoxicating, it's also volatile. Shadows are not conscious. They carry projections, unresolved wounds, and unacknowledged needs. So a man drawn to a woman's confidence may also feel threatened by it. A woman attracted to a man's rebellious energy might simultaneously fear being controlled or abandoned by it. The dance begins. Attraction and tension entwined. Attraction and discomfort interlaced. Shadow dynamics explain a lot of the confusing patterns in relationships. Why do some people keep falling for partners who hurt them? Why do seemingly perfect couples suddenly implode? Often, it's not just personality clashes or communication issues, it's the shadows. These unconscious patterns can manifest as jealousy, possessiveness, codependency, or emotional withdrawal. They operate in ways that rational thinking can't always explain. So how do we navigate this invisible terrain? Awareness is the first step. Recognizing that attraction is not purely about surface qualities allows us to pause and reflect. Ask yourself, what am I really drawn to in this person? Am I seeking to complete a hidden part of myself? Or am I projecting a fear or unmet desire onto them? These are not easy questions, but they are essential. Understanding shadow dynamics doesn't mean avoiding them. It means learning to work with them. Couples who can identify and own their shadows are often the ones who navigate challenges successfully. Instead of blaming the other person for triggering discomfort, they recognize it as an opportunity to explore their inner world. In other words, tension becomes a doorway to self-discovery rather than a source of conflict. Another critical aspect is projection. Projection occurs when we see in others what we refuse to acknowledge in ourselves. For instance, a man who criticizes a woman for being controlling may be struggling with his own controlling tendencies. A woman who complains about a man's emotional unavailability might be projecting her fear of her own suppressed emotions. In relationships, projection often leads to misunderstandings, arguments, and cycles that seem impossible to break. The trick is not to eliminate shadows, they are part of being human, but to bring them into consciousness. Once recognized, the shadow can become a source of strength, creativity, and intimacy. For example, a man acknowledging his insecurity may transform it into empathy and deeper connection. A woman confronting her fear of abandonment might discover greater independence and emotional resilience. Shadow integration turns what once caused conflict into growth. Now let's talk about a specific pattern often seen in male-female dynamics, the push-pull phenomenon. Have you ever noticed how some couples alternate between intense closeness and sudden distance? This is a shadow dance. One partner's need for independence triggers the other's fear of loss. One partner's desire for control awakens the other's rebellion. The cycle repeats because the underlying shadow issues remain unresolved. It's also important to note that society and culture shape shadow dynamics. Cultural norms teach men and women to suppress certain feelings: vulnerability, aggression, dependency. These suppressed elements often surface in private relationships. A man who feels he must always appear strong may overreact to perceived weakness in his partner. A woman who has been conditioned to prioritize harmony might suppress anger until it erupts in unexpected ways. Recognizing these patterns adds a layer of clarity to the shadow interplay. So what can you do as an individual? First, develop self-awareness. Notice your triggers, your projections, and your recurring patterns. Journaling, therapy, or even honest conversations with trusted friends can help uncover hidden dynamics. Second, practice empathy, not only for your partner but for yourself. Shadows are not flaws. They are parts of our humanity waiting to be acknowledged. Finally, cultivate patience. Shadow work takes time, and relationships are the perfect mirror for this exploration. And remember, attraction alone is not enough. Shadow dynamics explain why some relationships are deeply compelling, yet also deeply challenging. When you understand these dynamics, you can navigate bonds with more consciousness, compassion, and clarity. You can transform what feels like chaos into growth, tension into intimacy, and projection into understanding. This is the hidden dimension of male-female bonds: complex, messy, and profoundly human. Let's dive deeper into some common shadow archetypes in male-female relationships. Archetypes are patterns or roles that emerge from the unconscious. For men, common shadows might include the abandoned child, the overbearing protector, or the silent shadow, parts of themselves they hide from the world. For women, shadows can manifest as the hurt child, the temptress, or the invisible voice. Recognizing these archetypes in ourselves and our partners helps decode the hidden dynamics at play. Take the abandoned child archetype in men. A man carrying this shadow may have unresolved issues from feeling neglected or unsupported. In relationships, he might become overly needy, clingy, or conversely, push his partner away to avoid getting hurt. On the other hand, the hurt child in women may manifest as jealousy, insecurity, or fear of abandonment. When these shadows meet, the relationship can feel intense and magnetic, but also prone to repeated emotional turbulence. Understanding these archetypes is not about labeling or blaming, it's about insight. Once you recognize your own shadow tendencies, you can step back and observe rather than react. If your partner triggers you, ask yourself, what am I seeing in them that mirrors an unhealed part of me? This shift from reaction to reflection is a game changer in relationships. Now let's explore the role of projection in depth. Projection is when we assign our unconscious traits onto another person. For example, if a man is secretly controlling, he may constantly accuse his partner of manipulation. If a woman fears emotional dependency, she may see her partner as clingy or suffocating, even when they're not. Projection often fuels arguments, misunderstandings, and the "why does this keep happening?" feeling that frustrates many couples. The antidote to projection is self-awareness and honest reflection. Ask yourself, could this be something within me that I'm seeing in them? This isn't easy. Our shadows can be stubborn, but even a small awareness can shift the energy dramatically. Over time, couples who engage in this practice notice less blame, fewer arguments, and a deeper sense of connection. Another shadow pattern to consider is the balance of power. Power dynamics in relationships are rarely about money, status, or physical strength alone. Often, they are reflections of inner shadow conflicts. A man who fears vulnerability may assert dominance in subtle ways. A woman who fears rejection might unconsciously withdraw or manipulate situations to feel secure. Understanding that power struggles often mirror internal insecurities allows partners to respond with compassion rather than defensiveness. Let's talk about emotional triggers. In every relationship, partners activate each other's shadows, sometimes intentionally, often unconsciously. That gut reaction of anger, jealousy, or fear, that's your shadow speaking. Emotional triggers are signals, not obstacles. They indicate areas within ourselves that need attention, healing, or understanding. Couples who learn to pause, reflect, and respond consciously instead of reacting unconsciously navigate conflict far more successfully. So how do we move from unconscious shadow reactions to conscious integration? One effective approach is dialogue. Not casual chatter, but intentional conversations where each partner shares triggers, fears, and reflections without judgment. The goal is not to fix the other person. It's to illuminate the shadow patterns that influence both individuals. Over time, this practice fosters intimacy, trust, and emotional resilience. Another powerful tool is self-work. Individual practices like journaling, meditation, therapy, or creative expression help bring shadow elements into awareness. When each partner commits to personal growth, the relationship transforms from a battleground into a supportive arena for evolution. Shadow work is not about perfection. It's about courage, honesty, and patience. It's also worth noting that shadow dynamics are not inherently negative. They carry immense potential for growth, passion, and depth. The very intensity that can be confusing or overwhelming often fuels creativity, empathy, and profound connection. Couples who navigate shadow dynamics skillfully often report relationships that feel alive, transformative, and deeply authentic. Let's not forget attraction. Shadow dynamics can heighten magnetism, that inexplicable pull you feel toward someone. That's often a shadow resonance. But here's the lesson. Magnetic attraction without shadow awareness can lead to cycles of drama, disappointment, or heartbreak. Awareness transforms magnetism from chaos into conscious connection, where attraction is powerful but not destructive. Finally, let's talk about choice. We are not powerless victims of shadow dynamics. We can choose consciousness over unconscious reaction, integration over projection, and reflection over blame. Male-female bonds are not just about chemistry or compatibility. They are opportunities to meet our own shadows, learn about ourselves, and grow into more complete individuals. Relationships are mirrors, not just for love, but for transformation. So next time you feel drawn to someone or pushed away, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, what shadows are surfacing here? What unconscious desires or fears might be guiding my feelings? By exploring these questions, you step beyond superficial attraction and into the deeper, more fascinating world of shadow dynamics. To wrap up, male-female relationships are far more than chemistry or convenience. They are laboratories of the soul, spaces where hidden fears, desires, and projections come alive. Understanding shadow dynamics doesn't eliminate challenges, it equips us to handle them with insight, empathy, and courage. When we embrace this hidden layer, attraction becomes conscious, tension becomes growth, and love transforms from simple desire into deep connection. The next step is yours. Observe, reflect, and explore. Pay attention to your triggers, your projections, and your recurring patterns. Talk openly with your partner, explore your shadows, and cultivate curiosity instead of judgment. The journey is not easy, but it is deeply rewarding. Because beyond attraction, beyond superficial connection, lies the transformative power of conscious male-female bonds, the power to grow, evolve, and truly see each other.